Greetings and welcome back to the channel. I'm here with my friend, the Creaking from Minecraft, and today we're going to be writing a song for someone born today. Yeah, the proverbial stork just dropped off a baby, and it's our job to predict how it's going to turn out. But you're probably thinking, Luke, I'm looking at the younger generations, these whippersnappers. I'm thinking they're cooked in ways I can't even comprehend, let alone have predicted. What could you possibly know that we don't? And the answer, my friends, is good old traditional astrology. We're going to be using birth chart character analysis to divine one possible subject for a good old-fashioned rock and roll tune. Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited for this. As much as I like using tarot to write songs, go check those videos out. Astrology is really my bread and butter. This is the divination system I have the most familiarity with. Oh, shit. And furthermore, I find the concept that explains and justifies astrology, the Hermetic principle of as above, so below, to be pretty philosophically interesting. The idea that the cosmic drama happening out there in space is also being reflected down here on Earth, and within the self, more importantly. That's really what natal birth chart astrology is, It's this idea that we're all avatars of this moment in time and space that we were born into. And man, I could not imagine a more exciting time to be born. Like, we're looking at an energy crisis, there's AI, there's war, it's all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's all being reflected in the celestial sphere. So what could a person born today possibly be like? But yeah, that's a question that we're going to have to answer once we get inside and take a look at this chart. All right, we're back inside, and we've got the handy-dandy notebook to write down all of our lyrical ideas that we will be deriving from this chart, the chart of our baby, the chart of our hero. Like I said, they were born today, Thursday, April 23rd, 2026 at 12:54 p.m. local time. At least that's when I'm recording this. And don't be daunted by all of these symbols and numbers and glyphs. I understand that most people watching this are not coming from an astrology background, so I'm going to try and explain it as best I can. At a very basic level, this wheel right here represents the entire sky, including the parts you can't see, the parts below the horizon. That's what makes astrology kind of unique. If you're doing a tarot reading, you don't read the cards that you didn't pull. But in astrology, the planets hidden by the ground beneath your feet are just as important as the ones twinkling in the sky above you. Now, each of these symbols here represents one of the planets, and you can kind of think of the planets as actors. They symbolize behavioral patterns, archetypes, and character traits. For example, Mars here represents cutting, aggression, heat, anger. More positively, it can be associated with action, passion, drive, motivation. Now, you can kind of think of the zodiac sign that a planet finds itself in as the costume that it's wearing. Of course, that also implies that some planets are more comfortable in certain costumes than others. Now, this person's Mars is in Aries, one of the proprietary signs of Mars. To belabor the analogy, this is one of the costumes that Mars feels most comfortable in. Aries is all about initiation. It's a fire sign. Fire represents the will, the divine spark. You can kind of see how it fits together with the heat that we associate with Mars. Now, we can also see that there are quite a few planets in Aries right now. When one planet is wearing another planet's costume, they have to kind of try their best to act like that planet. And this is especially the case if they're also hanging out with that planet. We can see Mercury and Mars are together right here. Mercury is the planet of communication. Like I said, Mars is about aggression. Looking at this chart, we could say this is someone who probably curses like a sailor. I feel like now is as good a time as any to point out that a natal horoscope is just a range of possibilities. When I get really specific like that, it's because I'm trying to concretize these archetypes into something I can write a story about. Now, like I said, some planets are less comfortable in some signs than others. And here we have Saturn in Aries. Saturn represents boundaries and limitations, saying no to things. It's also associated with strategic planning, wisdom, old age. It really does not do well in Aries, which is colloquially called the baby of the zodiac. One of the mistakes that I see people who have Saturn in Aries making is believing that if they work harder, they can solve their problems rather than working consistently. They also have a tendency to bite off way more than they can chew because Saturn is about grand, long-term visions, and Aries is all about diving in head first. Furthermore, it is conjoined with Mars in Mars's sign There's definitely this feeling of like stomping on the gas and the brake at the same time. I think this will probably prove to be the biggest challenge in the life of our subject here. Now, all of this stuff is happening in the ninth house of religion, philosophy, pilgrimage, foreign travel. It strikes me as someone who's hammering away, that's a good Mars and Saturn word, hammering away at an expansive worldview. They also have Neptune there, which represents illusion, delusion, but also creativity and fantasy, along with Saturn, which kind of gives form to things. I can almost kind of see this as being someone who can bring their fantasies, their higher ideals to life. Now, if this person were immature or amoral, I could see them becoming like a cult leader, some sort of profligate liar who twists higher truth for their own gain. Blasphemy is definitely one possibility. And I can think of one person who also has Aries in the ninth house like this chart, and they just posted a picture of themselves as Jesus. So there you go. Hey, if you're enjoying the video so far, I'd really appreciate if you left a like down below, maybe subscribed if you're feeling like it. My name is Luke Exuberance, the public universal bandmate, which means if you're watching this, you just joined my band, and you might as well officiate it by subscribing. That would really mean a lot to me. It's totally free, and you can unsub at any time. Anyway, if it's not abundantly clear by now, I am really into astrology. If you want to get your birth chart read by me, you can email me at exuberancemail@gmail.com and just give me your birth date, the time of your birth, where you were born, your social security number. No, I'm just kidding about that last part. But yeah, birth date, time, and location. It would really help if you had a specific question about yourself or what's going on for you. But if not, I can just, shoot off possibilities from my intuition. But yeah, with that being said, let's get back to writing this song. Let's take a look at some other interesting stuff in this chart, kind of paint a fuller picture of this person. So their rising sign is Leo. That means that Leo was on the eastern horizon at the moment of their birth. Now, the eastern horizon is one of the astrological angles. These are really active parts of the chart, and they are represented by the eastern horizon, the western horizon, as well as the midheaven directly above your head. I like to kind of think of the angles as the form questions, if you're familiar with those: family, occupation, relationships, and message. This person's message, what they're all about, their identity, is very much of the nature of Leo. And we can kind of get a feel for how that plays out by looking to the ruler of Leo, the sun. And we can see that it's in Taurus on the midheaven. The midheaven is the occupation angle. So this is someone whose identity really comes from their career. This is someone who's very successful, very ambitious, probably places a lot of importance on notoriety and is able to get that notoriety. Taurus is all about beauty, earthy, sensual delights. It's ruled by Venus, which, if you know anything about mythology, you know was the goddess of beauty. And you can actually see that Venus is also in Taurus in this person's 10th house. This preponderance of Taurus placements inspired me to write something really rustic, really folksy, salt of the earth, if you will. If it were just the sun here, I would be like, oh, this person sells jewelry. But no, the fact that Venus is also in the sign of Taurus and in an exact conjunction with Uranus, the planet of rebellion, unconventionality, idiosyncrasy, invention. This is someone who has a very unconventional career path. They also probably work alone. You see the blue line connecting Venus and Uranus over to the moon there in Cancer. The sign of Cancer represents the home, as does the moon, which rules Cancer. This could be someone who works from home, or at least works in a very homely environment, or has some connection to homes in their work. Now, my final observation of this chart, and I think this will kind of bring us to the central conflict of the song, is the north and south node. The nodes of the moon represent decrease and increase respectively. This person has the south node in Virgo in their 2nd house of finances, and the north node in their 8th house of other people's money. So it's almost like this person is moving away from managing their own finances and into an influx of patronage or something like that. Now, the ruler of their 8th house of other people's money is Jupiter, and that is in their 12th house of isolation, prisons, hospitals. These are some of the traditional associations with the 12th house. Now, believe it or not, there was a 17th century French astrologer named Jean-Baptiste Morin who had a lot of stuff going on in his 12th house. He regularly found himself in the employ of the nobility, and he was well treated by them, got to live in all of their fancy castles and all of that. But he described being at their beck and call and the isolation of living in their secluded country estates as a sort of imprisonment. And so going back to the chart of our baby here, we can see that they have a lot of stuff happening in Aries in their 9th house of philosophy. And a lot of that stuff is forming a square, a 90-degree angle, a tense aspect to all of their stuff in Cancer, including the ruler of their 8th house. It's like their higher ideals do not agree with the way they make their living. And let's not forget, this is a newborn that we are talking about, okay? Talking about their life is essentially describing a sci-fi story. So in light of all of that, this song is going to be about the world's most accomplished lawn ornaments craftsmen. They are so good at their job. They're the only person in the world who can do it. They are a hard worker. All of these virtues bring them into the employ of a techno-feudal oligarch overlord. I'm sure you've heard the phrase lately, you'll own nothing and like it, the criticism of the subscription model that every major corporation is adopting. This is someone eating from the same table as the wealthy exploiters, and yet they also have this higher understanding, this worldly kind of knowledge. They know that this isn't right. For some reason, the preponderance of Aries and Taurus placements in this person's chart is actually making me think of Sargon of Akkad. Not the British asshole who made culture war videos on YouTube. I'm talking about the real Sargon, the ruler of the Akkadian Empire. Legend has it he was originally the cupbearer to the king. Like our character, he had a wealthy benefactor that he probably resented. Now, Inanna, Venus, came to him in a dream and told him he was destined to become the king, which eventually led to him overthrowing the king and taking the throne for himself. Now, maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm too optimistic, but I do not believe that techno-feudalism will have advanced monarchical characteristics within the next 30 years. So instead of taking the throne for themselves, I think this person is going to become like a revolutionary. Now, this is kind of cute. I kind of like the idea of like a statue of Inanna being the symbol of the revolution. This person starts using their skills to spread lawn ornament propaganda. Oh, it's so silly, but also fun. I'm going to try and work that into the lyrics somehow. I'm going to go turn everything we just discussed into some song lyrics, get those recorded. And there you have it, using a horoscope to write a song. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of the new format. I know this wasn't as process-oriented as it normally is, but hopefully the focus on lyrical and narrative ideas was a nice change of pace. If you couldn't tell from the beard and the fact that it's, let me check my imaginary watch, May 5th when I'm uploading this. Yeah, I've been taking my time writing this song. But before I play us out, I'd like to give a shout out to Molly from IEnjoyMusic.net. That is my favorite music blog, and she shouted me out on there. Go read the article down below. Who knows, you might find some new music you enjoy. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. If you made it this far, let me know what you thought down below. And this is Luke Exuberance playing us out. Started with statuettes made with love and blood and sweat. I am a lawn jockey hero, the best of the fucking best. With a hammer carve a piece of my heart. I am Inanna's right hand pistol. I'll send a bullet or dart and scoff at their stupid machine gun with autocomplete proverbs and